Even though the Waterloo movie shows this scene in Grenoble, it could just as well be in Lyon. We see a crowd singing the revolutionary song Zaira, Napoleon standing on a balcony, and Marshal Ney beside him. Historically, Ney was still on the royalist side for a few more days, so he wasn't actually there yet. But if you've seen the movie, you'll understand why the scene works. The reality of Napoleon's return in March 1815 was complicated. The reception along the Mediterranean coast had been at best skeptical, and sometimes openly hostile. Supplies were not simply handed over just because the old ruler had returned. But Napoleon chose his route carefully. By marching into the mountains, he entered regions where royalist support was weaker. The city of Lyon was the second largest city in France and an important industrial center. Under the Empire, it had benefited greatly. Public works had been subsidized, and the continental system, what we might today call economic sanctions, had protected local industry by blocking British goods. After the Bourbon Restoration, however, things changed quickly. Cheap foreign products began flooding the market. At the same time, large numbers of soldiers were discharged and returned home looking for work. Unemployment rose sharply. Officers felt particularly betrayed. Many were removed from their post and placed on half pay. Those who remained often saw royal favorites promoted over them. Even the symbols of the army were changing. The tricolor flag, red, white and blue, and the imperial eagles were being removed and replaced. Today that might seem symbolic, but at the time these emblems were deeply tied to the pride and identity of a regiment. Marshal MacDonald arrived in Lyon shortly before Napoleon's arrival and was tasked with organizing the defense of the city. When he addressed the officers and ended his speech with Vive le roi, not a single voice answered him. The king's brother, the Count of Artois, was also in Lyon at the time, yet even his presence did little to inspire loyalty. When MacDonald later went to see whether his orders to block the roads and bridges had been carried out, he discovered that nothing had been done. The political situation in France was also deteriorating. Taxes such as the droit réuni, which the Bourbons had promised to abolish, remained in place. The king kept the civil code and the two-chamber system, but he retained very broad powers. He could issue ordinances, appoint ministers freely, dissolve the assembly, and call elections whenever he wished. And those elections were extremely limited. Only about 100,000 people in a country of millions were allowed to vote. Freedom of the press was restricted, and the church regained control over secondary education. It seems that monarchy was trying to pretend the revolution had never happened. Also, the peasants were uneasy. Many had acquired land during the revolution and were unsure if they would remain the owner. Rumors also circulated that feudal dues might one day be restored. All of this created tension across France. Yet the country was still recovering from years of war, and the opposition to the Bourbon regime was fragmented. On its own, the monarchy might well have survived. But Napoleon's return changed everything.
The fat king must be carried from the throne! He has corrupted the honor of Frenchmen! And the traitors!
Years later, reflecting from the moment from exile on St. Helena, Napoleon himself would say, "As far as Grenoble, I had been an adventurer. At Lyon, I was a sovereign."